Welcome back to Top 5 Repairs. How do you fix P0520 to P0524 oil pressure sensor switch or sensor trouble codes? So the oil pressure sensor switch or sensor is usually mounted on the oil filter housing or is mounted somewhere on the engine block, usually on the side of the engine block. The number one reason why this oil pressure sensor switch or sensor fail is going to be caused by engine oil leak. If engine oil starts to accumulate directly on the oil pressure sensor switch or sensor, it's going to cause a connection issue. This can cause a malfunction code, a circuit code, or even a voltage code. So when you change your oil filter, a lot of engine oil is naturally going to accumulate directly on top of the oil pressure sensor. So make sure you clean the oil pressure sensor immediately after changing your oil filter. If you allow engine oil to sit on the sensor for too long, it's going to cause all sorts of electrical issue. How do you know your oil pressure sensor switch or sensor failed? And the first sign is going to be that the oil pressure light is going to turn on. If this oil pressure light turns on and your check engine light turns on and you're getting codes for P0520 to P0524 and your engine runs okay, there's no engine performance issue and it's running just normal, that is a sign that the switch is bad and you should replace it. The next sign that you know that your oil pressure sensor switch or sensor is bad is going to be that your oil pressure gauge is showing inaccurate reading. If your oil pressure gauge is showing reading at 0 or at 80, then you know you're going to have a circuit issue. You're either going to have a low circuit or a high circuit or even a malfunction code. When your engine is running fine, it should fluctuate between like 20 to like 60 PSI. And again, if the needle's stuck at 0 or 80, then you know you have a sensor or switch issue. What happens if the oil pressure light turns on and you're getting trouble codes for P0520 to P0524 and you're noticing engine performance issue? Well, if you're noticing engine performance issue, for example, if your engine is barely running at idle and it feels like the engine wants to turn off, you actually have engine problems. For example, you could have a bad oil pump, you could have bad engine bearings, and so on. At this point, it is important to check engine oil pressure by using an oil pressure gauge. What you have to do is you have to remove the oil pressure sensor or switch, and you want to install the oil pressure gauge on it, and you want to run your engine. You want to check oil pressure at idle, and you want to check it at higher RPM by comparing it to manufacturer specification. The next sign that you know that your oil pressure sensor switch or sensor is failing is that your oil pressure gauge needle is just bouncing all over the place. For example, if you see the needle just start moving like this, it just start fluctuating a lot, and it just said you're driving on the highway at 50 miles per hour, and the needle just kept on moving like this. It just kept fluctuating just back and forth, just bouncing back and forth. That's how you know the switch is failing, or either that or you have a connection issue. Again, it can be caused by oil on the connection. So that is how you fix P0520 to P0524 trouble codes. I hope you found this lesson informative. As always, thank you for watching and subscribe to Top 5 Auto Repairs.